That's my baby.
I'm dying.
That's my baby.
We're going at it at 110%.
I just want 5 minutes of happiness, please. Just give me 5 minutes.
And they scored! They did it!
Left, feet left.
What the hell was that?
Oh, yeah. What the fuck are you talking about?
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Sports Hounds exclusively here on a2dradio.com. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Periscope, and Instagram. You miss anything here on a2dradio.com. Download us, stream us, podcast form, Spreaker, Spotify, Google Play, iTunes, iHeartRadio. Takeover's real. A2D Radio is everywhere. He's Brad Ryer. I'm Rob Brinkman. Frank Vesby's producing the show. As always, we're brought to you by Specialized Physical Therapy, Dr. Paul Vidal. He's our doc. Make him yours too. Also, many of us in our families deal with mental health and addiction issues. We are happy to support the Counseling Center and Sunrise Detox. If you need mental health therapy or addiction detox, please call 856-651-8117. Tell them A2D Radio sent you. Tell them Tommy Arnone sent you. Also, new sponsor, Body Check Wellness is a line of products that promote wellness, balance, and recovery by using the full potential of hemp. They come in extracts, blends, gummies, and topicals. Use promo code A2D for 20% off your order at bodycheckwellness.com. Now, Brad, I don't know if you remember this, but that's Riley Cote's company.
Oh,
we
remember
actually had him at 1360 WNJC years and years ago when this thing was first getting going. He's very passionate about it. He's obviously a former NHL player. It's working for him. It can work for you too. And, you know, it was a good interview we had with him a few years back.
Yeah, he was a tough player, boy, I'll tell you what. He
Absolutely.
Really
Absolutely. So check out Body Check Wellness, Health and Body Wellness, A2D Radio, 20% off. You can't lose. Check out PhillyDrinkers.com. Check out my hat here, all the other stuff, A2D merchandise. That's PhillyDrinkers.com. Click on the A2D Radio collection. Brad, we got a huge show tonight. The Super Bowl is in the books. The NFL offseason is underway. Some trades have already happened. We expect Carson Wentz, I guess he's going to get traded. Tom Brady gets his unprecedented seventh ring, cementing his legacy as the greatest, not only quarterback of all time, but the greatest football player of all time, in my opinion. We got a big one. We got a big one in the Eastern Division here in the NHL with live action. We'll live react to you, Brad. Your New York Rangers taking on the New York Islanders. You hate to say it's a must win this early in the season, but both teams have 10 points. It looks like there's three elite teams in the East Division, being the Philadelphia Flyers, the Boston Bruins, and the Washington Capitals. Those three look like locks. So that leaves Pittsburgh, the Islanders, the Devils, the Rangers, the Sabres.
Hey, don't throw out Buffalo. They've got some talent on their team.
My point is some very good hockey teams are not going to be in the playoffs in the Eastern Division, which slice it any way you want, especially when I look at the trash that is the North Division and the West Division. Central Division, it's respectable. I can get away with that. There's 4 quality teams in there, but the other divisions, boy, oh boy, you got to see.
It's tough. But you know what? I mean, as a Ranger fan, I'm looking at it this way. They're still a very, very young team. And you know what? For them to be in this division, whether they make the playoffs or not, the fact that they're going to have to play at such a high level every night against a schedule like this can only make these guys better. Like we're talking about a bunch of 20, 21-year-old, 22-year-old players. You know, they're playing against the best teams in the league every night. And, you know, it's going to make you raise your level of play. And that, to me, that's a good thing. They weren't going to win the Stanley Cup this year anyway. So, you know what? The fact that these guys are getting in there and they're seeing what it's going to take to be.
That's such a bad mentality to have. That's such a bad mentality to have, though, Brad.
But, Rob, they're still rebuilding, okay? It takes years to rebuild a hockey team. You don't just – the NHL is very difficult to take a whole roster, an old aging roster, and turn it all around. It's very difficult to do, especially with the salary cap as low as it is. It's not easy to do that.
I mean, we see it all the time. Teams that sneak into the playoffs, they take off and they make a run. I don't understand why the Rangers. I don't understand why the Rangers are immune to that.
Guys that are they're 22 or under, and it's almost impossible.
I look at that as a positive, though, Brad.
Oh, it's a positive. It's a positive that these guys have a future, have a bright future. They're going to be They're going to be a real good team starting next year. Okay, but this year they really couldn't do much as far as improving the team. They got $20 million in dead cap space now that D'Angelo is not playing anymore. That they can't do anything with from all the buyouts. So you just have to wait and run its course. And now after this year, they're going to have their $18 million of that's going to be gone. So they're going to and they're going to not have Brendan Smith on the payroll. So they're going to have around between $20 and $25 million worth of cap space to go out and get some real good players in the off season. Whether they trade for them or whether they sign as free agents. I mean, and they're loaded in the farm system. They got 3 players right now in their farm system that are absolutely studs and look like they're going to be top-notch players. They got a kid by the name of Lundqvist playing in Sweden who's lighting it up as a defenseman. They got a kid in Russia by the name of Kravtsov who's got 15 goals in 40 games. And who's the other one now?
I couldn't tell you. I don't know anything about the Flyers.
Yeah, they have one other one, I think. Oh, Morgan Barron from Cornell, the guy who came in second in the Hobie Baker race. I mean, last year in college hockey, I mean, they're loaded. They're loaded, and that's just a few. That's just a few of them. Okay, they've got a lot of international talent. I mean, they're going to be a very, very good team for years to come. I just think they got a lot of guys that right now. One of their players, Andre Miller, who's on the top pair. He's a rookie, and he's on the top pair. Fox and Lindgren, they're second-year players, and they're on the second pair, and they're very good, by the way. If you have Adam Fox right now in fantasy,
I do have Adam Fox in fantasy right now.
That's right.
Adam Fox is nice. I like Adam Fox
for a defenseman, and he runs the power play in his second year, and the guy's really good defensively too. Unlike D'Angelo, the guy can score, set up plays, and he can actually play defense. So I mean, that guy's a good player, but they're gonna be okay. Trust me. Whether they make the playoffs this year or not, it's a lot to ask. They're not as good as those top 3 teams. They're just not. They're not as good as the Flyers. I mean, you can't sit here with a straight face if you're a Ranger fan and start telling people that they're better than the Flyers. They're not. They're not better than the Capitals, even though they beat them the other night, and they're certainly not better than the Boston Bruins either. Now, if you want to make the argument that maybe they can beat out the Penguins and the Islanders and the Devils in Buffalo for 4th place, okay, maybe that's possible. I mean, the Islanders aren't going to be easy. The Islanders were in the conference finals last year, and they're a now team. So, I mean, that's not going to be easy. Now, as far as the Flyers are concerned, what an impressive win yesterday. I mean, that's Scott Lawton. He just seems to be he seems to be everywhere. Every game I've seen the Flyers play, he's always scoring.
This is why I try and you got to take the Flyers. I understand it's frustrating to watch them because I get home from work, I settle in, I eat dinner, I take my shower, and I usually pop in the last half of the second period and the third period when they usually collapse. Guys got to relax. Sean Couturier missed 4 games. He came back yesterday. They lost to the Bruins twice. I mean, any point you get.
It's not an embarrassment to lose to the Bruins. The Bruins might be the Stanley Cup champions. You know what? If you lost.
Any point you get in this Eastern division is a good point.
And guess what?
And you're going to take your lumps. You're going to go on losing streaks. You don't have Cream Puff.
Better to find out now if you don't match up with the Bruins so that you can do something during the season to sharpen up your game.
But I think they match up with the Bruins just fine with Couturier in the lineup.
I do too. I think Couturier is they have to have him because
Marchand is just he's just a menace.
Well, Pasternak is
a menace. Boston's extremely good.
Oh yeah, I mean Boston is loaded, and for a team that lost Torrey Krug and lost Zdeno Chara to free agency, it's like, so okay, next guy up. I mean, they lose nothing. They let Brandon Carlo come up to be a top defenseman, and they call up one of the kids. I mean, that team is loaded. They are loaded with talent. Tuukka Rask is still at the top of his game. So I mean, they're going to be there all year long, and if they stay healthy and the Flyers stay healthy, I think those two teams are on a collision course. I think when they play each other in the conference finals, I think that's going to in the Eastern Conference Finals, I should say. I think that's the winner of that.
Well, they can't. Right, the Eastern Division Finals.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Don 19. Rob, what's your fantasy record? I got my first win this week, Don. I am 1-2. I think I'm in 8th place. There's a long season to go. I don't have any goalies. I got no goalies. Braden Holtby stinks. And Mazurek on Carolina, he got hurt. They won't even put him on IR, so I can put him in an IR spot. He's just out, but he had thumb surgery. So I don't know what to do. I made a trade today. I traded Svechnikov from the Carolina Hurricanes for the goalie for the Capitals.
Well, at least the Capitals play defense,
and he plays a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And he plays and they play pretty good defense. So I mean, they're gonna
I couldn't do it. I Braden Holtby was getting minus points so many times because he's getting lit the fuck up every chance he's out there for the Vancouver Canucks. That my forwards are such powerhouses, it doesn't matter. Holtby shitted away the points, and then I've just been sitting on my hands waiting for Mazurek to go on the IR spot so I can pick him up. It's like the DL in baseball where I can pick him up without dropping anybody. So I had to make a move. I had to make a trade. But your boy Adam Fox, I've been impressed with him. He was a late round steal. Adam Fox is nice.
He was great last year.
Not to mention, I don't even have Pietrangelo. He's been out forever.
Pietrangelo is not playing? I didn't know that.
He had COVID, and then they had some games postponed, and
that's right.
I don't know what's going on with them.
Yeah, they haven't played that many games yet, but that's okay. You know what? You're gonna it'll all even out. You'll get a lot. At least your goalie is going to get a lot of wins because the Capitals are a good team.
Correct.
So I mean, if you're going by that particular narrative, you should do okay because they're going to win most of their games.
All right, let's get to our poll question. Poll question of the night: the 2020-2021 Tampa Bay Buccaneers were Tom Brady's best team. Now, I should amend this because I should have added this in his best of the 7 teams that won the Super Bowl. So there's 7 contestants. Which one was the best? Obviously, last night was unbelievable, Brad. The guy's 43 years old. He plays the biggest in the biggest spots yet again. He's been to 10 Super Bowls. He's won 7. He cements his legacy as the greatest football player of all time. Better than Jim Brown, better than Barry Sanders, Reggie White, Lawrence Taylor, whoever you want to throw out there.
Oh, absolutely.
Tom Brady takes the cake. But I was very underwhelmed by the football game.
Yeah,
the game sucked.
Tampa Bay was just in complete control of that game. I mean, it really,
now there you go.
Kansas City got punched in the mouth. Kansas City got punched in the mouth, and they couldn't do anything to stop it.
2007, he did not win the Super Bowl. The New York Giants beat him. This is why it's an interesting debate because I think Tom Brady's 2 best teams that he was on in New England both lost the Super Bowl to the Giants, your squad.
Yeah,
in 2012,
particularly in 2007. I mean, that team was just was awesome. I think.
I mean, he can't disagree. That's 2007 is not on the table. He didn't win.
Yeah, no, we're talking about teams that won the Super Bowl, and I think, it's tough. I think it's between the team that beat Carolina, the team that beat the Eagles, and yesterday's team. I think it's between those 3 teams. I mean, the team that beat Carolina had Corey Dillon on it, didn't it?
No, the team that beat the Eagle. Oh my God, I still have nightmares about Corey Dillon running over that 04 Eagles defense. He just could not be tackled. He was on 04. They traded him after for. That's why they were so great, because they would win the Super Bowl and they would bring in hungry guys who wanted to win. Whereas the current regime wins the Super Bowl and they just want to keep the band coming back together. It doesn't work like that. They restock the shelves. Gotta get hungry guys in there. That's what the Patriots did so well in Foxborough for all those years.
Oh,
anyway,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Or it's between. I mean, to me, it's kind of Didn't you're sure he didn't play in 2002 or 2003? I mean,
no, because he was wrapped up in Cincinnati. Let me make sure. I'm fairly certain.
So that was an awfully good team. That was an awfully good team too. The one that
I thought Corey Dillon got robbed of the. I know Deion Branch had 14 catches or whatever he had in 2004 against the Eagles, but I thought Corey Dillon got. First off, T.O. should have been the MVP of that game. To do what he did on one leg while McNabb was yakking his brains out in the huddle was absolutely unprecedented. He almost single-handedly won the Eagles the football game as a wide receiver.
Yeah, now that the more I'm thinking about it, I think probably the best team that he played on that won the Super Bowl was probably the 2004 team with Dillon, the one that beat the Eagles, because that was a really good team. I mean, quite honestly, Rob, I thought that the 2004 Eagles were probably a better. Certainly, they were a better defensive team.
They were better on paper.
Yeah, that won the Super Bowl. I mean, that was an unbelievable team. But I mean, remember, we're talking about teams that won. It doesn't count if you lose the Super Bowl. It doesn't matter what your regular season was. I mean, when the Giants won the Super Bowl in 2012, they beat Green Bay, and Green Bay was 15-1. But they lost. And the Giants smoked them that year. So I mean, it happens. It's it's not always automatic.
Now, 2003. I mean, 2003. I mean, they had Branch. Yeah, 03. I think 04. 04 was better. Anyway,
they had Troy. What the hell's his name? Troy
Brown.
Troy Brown. Yeah.
Yeah, he was on all those teams.
Yeah, he was on all those teams. He was a terrific receiver. I mean, they had some good players, but I mean, their defense was really loaded too back then too. The Patriots.
They won with scheme. So much. And they just had Brady, and Brady was the best, and he was such a competitor, and he would make pedestrian wide receivers like Deion Branch, who he wasn't that great. Troy Brown, he wasn't anything great. David Patton, he wasn't anything great. He would make those guys look great. And then they had such great leadership and intangibles on the defensive side of the ball. And obviously they were well coached on the defensive side of the ball. But that dynasty didn't blow you away with talent, which is why I think last night's Tom Brady team was by far the most talented and the best team he's ever been on.
I think
won the Super Bowl.
Look at the defense. Look at the defense on that team. I mean, that defense was ferocious, especially the defensive line. I mean, I know that Kansas City was missing offensive linemen, and Tony Romo and Jim Nantz did a real good job making sure the whole world knew about that. So
yeah, well, I had the game on mute. I was arguing with some friends.
I thought those two did a nice job making sure everybody knew that, so that it wasn't like what the hell's going on with Kansas City. It's not that Kansas City has a trash offensive line. The fact that they lost one guy and then three guys had to move out of position, that was a major factor. But I said it before. It's why I picked them to begin with. I loved Tampa Bay in this game. Their defense has been lights out. Once they figured out how to stop New Orleans got nothing done in the second half. Green Bay, they got a big lead on them because their defense was just dominant against them. And the offensive line for Tampa Bay, also give them some credit because they were able to run the ball. They were able to give Tom some time. Tom knows what to do when he's got the time. And the other thing is they had, when it comes to Brady, if you make a mistake and he smells blood, you're done. I mean, the guy's like a shark. As soon as he sees the blood in the water, it's over. I mean, he strikes.
I want to bring up
that to me, that's the overwhelming thing about Tom Brady. I mean, you make a mistake against him, You're dead.
I need a depth chart. I'm looking for. But anyway, the 2004, I think, which is his best New England team that won the Super Bowl that beat the Eagles. I'm just going to read it. Depth chart according to Wikipedia. So I apologize. I'm sorry. It's profootballreference.com. So a reputable source here. 2004, they went 14-2 in the regular season with losses. A late season head scratcher to Miami, and they lost to a very good Pittsburgh team in the regular season. So 14-2. That's pretty good. Tom Brady, Corey Dillon comes over from New England. He has 1,600 yards, 12 touchdowns, and he added a receiving touchdown along the way. So 13 total touchdowns over 1,600 yards. That's what makes this the best New England edition.
Yeah, I mean that to me, I was thinking either them or the game against Carolina. Those two teams were, as far as the winning teams, those were two.
Yeah, but I mean, with all due respect to Carolina, I mean, Jake Delhomme was a goon.
Yeah, the whole
he wasn't any good.
No, but the whole package, as far as New England was concerned, just I think he had a lot. He had a lot of. I mean, he threw for a ton of yardage that season. Tom Brady had a great season that year.
Oh yeah, I have it right here in 2004 or 2003. I don't have 2003 up. I don't have 2003.
He had a huge season in 2003. I mean, Carolina did a hell of a job keeping that game close. I mean, I thought that
right,
was,
but I give, and the 0-1, his first one, I don't really put much stock in that. That was one of the greatest upsets ever, and that Rams team was loaded, and that Patriots team just wasn't very good. They just had a masterful game plan, and they kept Marshall Faulk in check, and they were able to hang around, and they were able to steal it at the end. They got a defensive score.
The Rams also blew a million opportunities to win that game.
But you look at this, and then you have receivers. You have Deion Branch, David Givens, David Patton. Not bad. Daniel Graham at tight end. They never had good tight ends until Gronk and Aaron Hernandez came along. This is where they really 2004. They really were good. Matt Light, who was a very good center. Very good left tackle. Joe Andruzzi was a very good guard. Dan Coppin was a very good center. Steve Neal and Brandon Gorin rounded out that offensive line.
That was a good offensive line.
I don't quite remember the last two, the right side of that line, but left tackle, left guard, center.
Corey Dillon was just unbelievable that year. I mean, that he made a huge difference because he took a lot of. He made that team two-dimensional. I mean,
I think I might change I think this 2004 team. Listen to this defense: Ty Warren, who is a good player, Keith Traylor at nose tackle, Richard Seymour at defensive end. That's their three-man front. William McGinnis, Ted Johnson, Teddy Bruschi, Mike Vrabel.
Yeah.
Secondary featured Ty Law and Rodney Harrison, two Hall of Famers. By the way, Randall Gay and Eugene Wilson, they weren't slouches either.
No, that was a real good team. Both those teams were real good teams.
And then you had Kevin Falk in the mix, who was a great scat back, excellent compliment to
he was a nice
Corey Dillon.
He was a good role player because he could catch the ball out of the backfield. You know, he could get the tough yardage and not make Dillon have to run the ball on every play. I mean, he was a nice player. He was there for a long time, if I remember correctly.
Young Asante Samuel was on that 2004 team.
Yep, That's right. That was a very talented team.
Larry Izzo was on that team.
But I think that this Tampa Bay team was better. I mean, if you take a look, I
agree with you because you have Tom Brady, who's still good. Fournette, who's a talent, but he's a little bit of a headache. Ronald Jones was a good player. Gronk and Brait at tight end. You have receivers out the wazoo. I mean, even Scotty Miller would be a dominant, I don't want to say dominant slot receiver, but a pretty damn good slot receiver if a team gave him, a featured opportunity, in my opinion. He can't be Tyreek Hill in a race. I still maintain that opinion, but his team did win the game yesterday.
Yes, they did. And
he's a fourth receiver. Evans, Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown might be one of the top 10 best receivers ever.
Yeah, Antonio Brown was a factor yesterday. Mike Evans had a real good game. I mean, they could not cover him in any big spot, and they couldn't cover Gronk in any big spots either.
And then Chris Godwin is a good player.
Chris Godwin's a very good player. He's underrated, but he's very good.
They knock it out of the park with their first-round pick in Tristan Wirfs. He has a tremendous season. He has a great game yesterday. And then look at this defensive front. I mean, Jason Pierre-Paul, Shaquille Barrett, and Ndamukong Suh. You have what I think is the best linebacker tandem in the whole National Football League.
Those three guys, yes. Those three. And Devin White.
Yeah, Devin White and Levante David. That's probably the best 1-2 combination at linebacker in the league. If I'm missing something, let me know in the comments. But those guys are monsters.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, they were harassing Patrick Mahomes yesterday. I mean, they were all over him.
I mean, in terms of pure talent, I don't see how it can be argued that this Tampa team was better than anything that his 6 Super Bowls in New England match up with. I think 04 is the closest, the team that beat the Eagles. I just read you the roster. It was unbelievable. But, I mean, and then I think, Rob, do you think Brady should have won Super Bowl MVP? Yeah, because no one else really set themselves apart. Maybe you give it to Gronk, but Gronk doesn't catch the touchdown passes without Brady. So it's like the chicken or the egg.
Yeah, I mean, I think they got it right. I mean, as dominant as Shaq Lawson was, and as dominant as JPP was, and Devin White, I mean, there's still the defensive players. They don't have the same impact on the game that Brady did. And again, when Brady needed to do something, he did every time. I mean, in the first half, and here's something that Andy Reid just completely screwed up yesterday. Last minute of the first half, did they kick a field goal or did they punt? I can't remember now. I think they kicked a field goal, right?
Well, they scored 3 field goals in the first half. They didn't score a touchdown the entire game, and they scored 0 points after halftime.
Okay, so they kicked the field goal.
Maybe they got a field goal in the third quarter.
They got a field goal in the third quarter. They got a field goal, and then with 1 minute to go in the second quarter, okay, Tampa Bay gets the ball on their own 25-yard line, okay, and Andy Reid's calling timeouts when they stop Brady after a gain of 1. And then he calls a timeout when it's 3rd and 1. I mean, does Andy Reid understand that Tom Brady is the quarterback and that he's not going up against Jimmy G this year like he was last year? I mean, he's going up against a great offense. I don't know how he could be that confident that they were going to stop him, because it looked to me like.
Yeah, but I didn't have a problem with that. I got to push back on you a little bit here, Brad. But at what point? You got to go with what got you there.
But to call two timeouts when Tampa Bay only had 1 timeout left, okay? You go into the second half, you're getting the kickoff. I mean, I think Andy Reid tried to get greedy, and he got burnt because
I would get greedy too if I had Patrick Mahomes.
I understand that, but when you only if you have Patrick Mahomes and there's like 30 seconds to go in the half and you have no timeouts and you really haven't moved the ball all that well the entire first half, I mean, I just think that wasn't a very wise thing to do.
Well, there's no doubt about it. Andy Reid came up very, very small in yet another big game, kind of a black cloud that's been around him his entire career. Philadelphia, Kansas City, both spots, he's been favored in big games, and he's come up short. He was favored yesterday in yet another big spot, and he came up short. Brian, I know you're not an Eagles fan, so I don't expect you to fully understand this reference, but I was watching that game as an Eagles fan yesterday, and every time something went wrong for the Chiefs, the 2003 NFC Championship, where the Eagles got completely demolished by the Carolina Panthers, their spirits were broken. Ricky Manning Jr. just took the game away from him. Donovan McNabb played horrible. The Eagles weren't ready. The Eagles weren't prepared. Andy Reid got clowned. That's what I thought of every time something went wrong for the Chiefs yesterday. Was the 2003 NFC Championship game, a 14-3 loss for a favored Andy Reid and Philadelphia Eagles team. It was really bad. I mean, I get you got a couple linemen out, but that game plan was weak. game plan was really weak.
I don't like the fact that they were running the ball effectively, and Andy Reid basically abandoned the run, and they were running the ball very, very effectively.
You just run a couple draws or a couple screen passes. You got to neutralize those ends from getting up the field. I mean, it's not hard.
Basically, New England. I keep calling them New England. Tampa Bay was screen passing them to death, and they were doing those quick hitter runs, and they were neutralizing their rush by doing that with the screens and the quick runs and the short passes. And they were beating the pass rush. Andy Reid should have been doing that. He was so worried about trying to throw a long pass, and Mahomes just didn't have the time to do it. And he was running for his life. He took some monster hits. The one where they finally called the roughing the passer on the Bucks. I think when JPP hit him, and who was the other one that took Lawson and JPP? I think made a sandwich out of him, and he kind of put his hand up to say, "Okay, come on already," But how many times that guy hasn't been hit like that in his entire career?
No.
And here's what I'm leading up to, okay? Because I kind of am leading up to something here. You watch how poorly Mahomes played yesterday, okay? Because he was getting harassed, banged around. He had no offensive line. His team was not running the football because the coach wouldn't let him. But his team wasn't running the football. He couldn't throw the ball deep. He was getting hit and hit and hit from everywhere. Okay, How effective was he?
He wasn't effective. I saw a next-gen stat from ESPN on Twitter. Patrick Mahomes ran 497 yards to escape pass rushes yesterday.
That's unbelievable. Now, what about Carson Wentz? What happened to him this year?
He was harassed. His head coach wouldn't run the ball. They had no offensive line. I'm glad you brought this up and not me, because this was on my little checklist.
I'm not even the one that likes the Eagles. I hate the Eagles, but let's be honest, okay? When your quarterback is running for his life, and this goes for all you New Yorkers who like to bash my boy Daniel Jones, okay? And I'm included because I've done a little bashing myself.
You bash Daniel Jones every chance you get.
Yes, but let's be fair, okay? When you're not running the damn ball, okay, and you're running for your life and you're taking unbelievable shots, okay, and your receivers aren't getting open, and your offensive line is completely overwhelmed, what do you expect is going to happen? Even Patrick Mahomes can't do it. Okay, Tom Brady, when he was with the Patriots against the Giants defensive line mauled the offensive line of the Patriots in 2007 and in 2012. Okay, and you know what? He couldn't get anything going in those games. That's what happens. No matter how good you are, even the GOAT can lose if you bang them around a lot. So I'm asking you, do you really want to trade Carson Wentz and have all that dead cap space on your team and not even have him on the team? Or would you rather try to go out and improve that offensive line so the guy has a chance? Because I'm going to tell you something, okay? Jalen Hurts, you think he's going to be that good when he's going to be running for his life all the time? What do you think is going to happen?
I don't think if Jalen Hurts had the best offensive line in the league, I don't think he's that good.
And if they do get Nick Foles, like the rumors are, okay, Nick Foles is more of a backup quarterback. He had a nice
Nick Foles is a backup quarterback.
He had a nice ride with the Eagles that one year that he threw 27 touchdown passes and 2 INTs, and he had a great run the year that they won the Super Bowl. Okay, but you're putting him behind the center for 16 or 17 games, however many games they're going to play next year. Okay, how effective do you think they're going to be if they're running for their lives?
He's not, and I'm team not trade Carson Wentz.
Why? I mean, I don't understand. Why would you trade him? First of all, it's not like you're gonna get rid of the salary. You're still stuck with him financially.
Well, they're stuck with him for 1 year. There'll be a $33 million dead cap hit for this year.
Okay.
If they trade him before March the 9th, I think it's March the 9th. It might be the 7th or the 8th, but I think it's March 9th. And then after that, if they trade him and he's not on the football team, they're after this year, there's no dead cap. The whoever has him will pay him unless he restructures. You could restructure for the Eagles. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm pretty adamant.
If you're not going to improve your offensive line, I don't care who your quarterback is. If you don't have any receivers for these guys to throw the ball to, and your offensive line isn't playing well, okay, I don't care how good he is, and I don't care how good Miles Sanders is. They're not gonna be a high scoring team. And
I mean, this is a little bit earlier in the show than I wanted to get into Carson Wentz and the saga that is the Philadelphia Eagles. But I don't understand how you can look at Carson Wentz and see an unsalvageable, untalented situation. I don't get it.
I think you got to give him 1 more year. You know, I mean, if he doesn't play well again next year, okay, and do what you got to do. But you know what? You're already on the hook for him. So what's the point? What's the point in getting rid of him? And you're going to have all this dead cap space. It's not like you're going to be able to go out and sign somebody to take his place this year. So you might as well just keep him and hope that he comes back and plays better. Hopefully, some of your guys that were hurt along the offensive line come back. And damn it, draft a couple of offensive linemen that can actually block. I mean, listen, my Giants are just as bad when it comes to that. They don't ever seem to connect with these offensive linemen, but you got to upgrade the offensive line. I mean,
there are very few trade packages that I would be willing to part with Carson Wentz with.
Yeah, I mean,
there's just very few. I posted two on Facebook, I think yesterday morning. I would trade Carson Wentz, Zach Ertz, and the 38th pick to the Houston Texans for Deshaun Watson, which if Deshaun Watson really wants to get out of there, that's an astronomical return to get for a disgruntled franchise quarterback who has no interest in playing for your team because you're just a bunch of morons and alienated a top 5 quarterback in the league. You get 2 Pro Bowlers and a premium second-round pick. By the way, you have no draft picks whatsoever. So I would part ways with Carson Wentz in that mock trade scenario, and I would trade Carson Wentz for Drew Lock in the 9th pick. I think Drew Lock can play. Do I think Drew Lock is as good as Carson Wentz? No, I don't. I think that he'll never be as good as Carson Wentz. I don't think he's capable of having a 2017 type season that Carson Wentz had. But I'm also getting a 9th pick, and with that, I'll have 6 and 9 along with 38. I'll have Drew Lock to be my quarterback until I figure something else out, because Drew Lock is better than both Nick Foles and Jalen Hurts. Obviously, Nick Foles wouldn't even be a factor because we're not doing a mock trade with the Bears right now. But I mean, you get 6 and 9, maybe you get Devontae Smith and Patrick Surtain, or you get Kyle Pitts out of Florida, the tight end, because Zach Ertz, he's not going to be on this team anymore. After this year, he's going to get traded.
He probably will get traded in the offseason, but it's Carson Wentz that's the problem. You might as well keep him with all the money you got into him. I mean, what's the point in having all that dead cap space? As I said, it's not like you can improve the team. You know, you're not going to be able to sign somebody to replace him, so it's pointless. You might as well let him go out there and let him play. Instead, let's get the rest of the team set. Get yourself a quality wide receiver, and build that offensive line so that he can.
Like when I see trade scenarios with the Chicago Bears, where I'm getting a 1st-round pick, Tariq Cohen, who number 1 isn't that good and is coming off an ACL injury, and Nick Foles, who's rode the bench everywhere he's been in this league. Every team he's been on, he's rode the bench.
That's a sucker trade. The Bears are kind of suckering you to do that.
I would puke. That would be one of the worst trades in the history of trades in any sport for any team. Like, I'm not just saying that because Carson Wentz is – I like Carson Wentz, and I think he's going to rebound from this horrendous season and be a good quarterback in this league. That would be a horrendous trade. I'm disinterested in any trade regarding Carson Wentz that leaves Jalen Hurts as my undisputed Week 1 starter. I'm against it. And I don't care. I saw another rumor that everyone seems to be whacking their bird to, that thinks is so great, that I don't think this is so great at all. It's Carson Wentz and pick 38 to the Bears for a 20. I guess, what do the Bears have? The 20th pick, give or take. The 20th pick, their first-round pick in 2021, and Nick Foles and Roquan Smith, who's a good linebacker.
Yeah, no, he is good. He is good.
He's a really good linebacker. But do you win championships with linebackers like Roquan Smith, or you win championships with what I think Carson Wentz can still be in this league? You win championships with quarterbacks like I think Carson Wentz can be in this league. That's another sucker trade with the Bears.
Yep, it's a quarterback-driven league. See, the Bears are playing on the Eagles' emotions with Nick Foles. Okay, and yeah, of course, everybody.
Right, that's another thing that makes me sick about it, because Howie Roseman is so far in the doghouse that he thinks bringing back Nick Foles, who the idiots in this fan base thinks is better than Carson Wentz, better than Jalen Hurts, and is the greatest thing since sliced bread because he played a couple of good games in January of 2018, 2017. You think he's the savior? You think he's going to fix this team? You're out of your mind. Nick Foles behind the offensive line that was out there last year. Nick Foles against that out there against that offensive line that played. Behind that offensive line that played for the Chiefs last night. He'd be a disaster. Jalen Hurts would be a disaster. Jalen Hurts is not a franchise quarterback. Nick Foles is not a franchise quarterback. Carson Wentz is a franchise quarterback. I know a lot of people don't think so. And this is where I got to get on the Philly fans, because I love the Philly fans, that they're knowledgeable about the game and they're passionate. They're outspoken about their teams. But where Philadelphia sports fans fall short and look dumb time after time after time is they don't have perspective on the landscape of sports. They just don't. They look at Carson Wentz and they see that he had a bad year behind a poorly coached team, a poorly offensive line, a poor defense, poor everything, and they think he just sucks. But they have no perspective around the league that so many teams would give up multiple first-round picks to build around Carson Wentz. Eagles fans are going to find out how bad Jalen Hurts is and how unsuited he is to be a franchise quarterback if they trade Carson Wentz, leaving Jalen Hurts as the undisputed guy here in Philadelphia. If Nick Foles, it comes back to Philadelphia as part of a trade, a career backup. This guy's been benched for Gardner Minshew twice. Gardner Minshew once, Mitchell Trubisky twice. So I think Philadelphia fans, I think they really need to sit down this offseason, look in the mirror, and get some perspective on the rest of the
and by the way, the Bears
outside of Philadelphia.
The Bears had good receivers this year. So you can't sit there and say, "Oh, well, they didn't have any talent as far as the
Bears went to the playoffs."
Yeah, well, and they also had a couple of decent receivers on their team. I think Robinson, right?
Robinson's really good.
Yeah, well, he's a free agent this year.
Correct.
So he's good, but he's going to get a lot of money because who in the NFL wouldn't want a guy like that on their team?
Just get some Philadelphia fans. You get some perspective on the rest of the league, and how bad, how in dire straits some of these teams are that don't just have a franchise quarterback. Like Denver doesn't have a franchise. Is Drew Lock a franchise quarterback? I like Drew Lock. I can't sit here and tell you that Drew Lock is a franchise guy, an undisputed franchise guy.
You can't sit here and tell me right now that he's better than Wentz. But I mean, Wentz was such a mess. That's the problem. I mean, he really was last year, and you have to. But again, after watching and getting a subtle reminder, and honestly, I got a subtle reminder yesterday watching that game of seeing a great quarterback like Patrick Mahomes completely neutralized because his offensive line couldn't protect him. It just made me think. It made me think a lot about Carson Wentz. It made me think about Daniel Jones too.
But what would if Patrick Mahomes had to play behind that offensive line for 16 games in Kansas City this year, I mean, are they in the Super Bowl? My answer is no.
No, I don't think so. I don't think they would. There's no way they would have gotten past Buffalo, and there's no way they would have they would have been able to beat a team like the Ravens. I mean, the AFC was a pretty good league this year, so I would say no.
So, and I do think that Carson Wentz is going to get traded.
And I think that's going to end up being a big mistake.
I think the Eagles are on the verge of making an astronomical, awful trade. Astronomical, awful. I'm against any trade that leaves Jalen Hurts as my guy. I'm out. Yeah, I don't believe in Jalen. I don't believe in Jalen Hurts.
Unless you trade him to Miami and get the third pick in the draft.
Then I'm just starting everything over with the bullshit QB factor that they think they have.
But if
I'd rather have Carson Wentz than Zach Wilson. You're not getting Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is going first to Jacksonville Jaguars with Urban Meyer. It's done. If they don't pick Trevor Lawrence, they're a bunch of morons. They're going to pick Trevor Lawrence. Right. Urban Meyer's not that dumb.
But you could also get Fields too.
I mean, Justin Fields, really?
He was pretty good.
Second pick in the draft, third pick in the draft. I'm hitching my franchise to Justin Fields. I'd feel more comfortable hitching my wagon to BYU's Zach Wilson. I'd feel more comfortable taking Mac Jones or Kyle Trask in the second round.
The guy in Alabama is
Mac Jones.
Mac Jones, yeah. He looks like an NFL quarterback to me too.
But I mean, can you really tell? I mean, it's a pro set down. Like it's a professionals all over the place.
Yeah, and some of the comments we've been getting have been really good.
Yeah, we're gonna go. Let's go through the comments.
There are some really good comments. The last comment I saw out there, Rigor, I can't remember who the name of the guy was that just said something about it's amazing how how important offensive lines are. Yeah, I mean if yesterday's game didn't make you rethink the whole Carson Wentz saga, then I don't know what else can remind you, because we all know how good Patrick Mahomes is.
That's a New York fan saying this, folks.
Troy Esmond is Troy. You are right on the money. Okay, it's always overlooked when the quarterback's bad. Okay, and sometimes the quarterback is just bad. We're not gonna sit here and always say, oh, it's the offensive line's fault. Sometimes the quarterback is bad. But in Wentz's case, when Wentz was harassed so many times, I really think that this year he was hearing footsteps. So even when he had a clean pocket, I think that he was hearing footsteps, and that's why he had such a bad completion rate on a clean pocket. I mean, I just think that sometimes that happens to guys. If you look at the guy, remember the guy who played quarterback for the Cardinals, who played on the Giants for Kurt Warner.
Kurt Warner.
Yeah, when he was with the Rams, how good he was when they had a good offensive line. Then he goes to New York and he plays ahead of Eli Manning, because that was the year that they broke in Eli Manning at the end of the year. But Kurt Warner was scared to death every time he went back to throw with that giant offensive line that year. Okay, and then he goes back to the Cardinals again, who had a real good offensive line. And although the Cardinals were 9-7, they still made it to the Super Bowl, because they had a good offensive line, and he was back to being Kurt Warner again. It's all about the offensive line, guys. It's all about that. And you know what? You can't – there is no point in trading Carson Wentz unless somebody overpays. If you give him away just because he's being a crybaby, that is the stupidest thing you could possibly do.
I don't know how much of a crybaby he's been. He hasn't said anything.
Well,
how can he be a crybaby if you didn't say anything?
Has he? I mean, we don't. I mean, the thing is, everything comes
not
from
public. He hasn't said anything publicly. Now there's reports saying that he has a good relationship and he's spoken with new head coach Nick Sirianni. He's spoken to team owner Jeffrey Lurie. The only person he won't answer the phone for is Howie.
Okay, but he doesn't really have to deal with Howie. Howie's a GM.
I understand that.
So. I mean,
look, the dynamic in Philadelphia, it's all fucked up. Everyone knows it's fucked up,
if
and
the coach-
it's total
if the coach
trash.
if the coach wants to keep Carson Wentz, guess what?
But the coach doesn't have say.
Well, yeah, but you know what though?
No, he doesn't, Brad. He doesn't. The Eagles aren't run like
they're not going to listen to their coach at all.
No. Let me explain something.
That's a problem.
Because you're in New York, which I understand. You hate the Eagles. You're not in tuned.
No, I'm not. I'd be the first one to tell you I agree with you. I'm not.
So Howie Roseman drafts the players. He sets the 53-man roster. He makes the cuts at training camp. He has final say over all that bullshit, which is fucked up because the guy can't lace up a pair of cleats. You know, he's a big dork. He's a numbers dork who's just a big nerd that everyone hates. And he has full autonomy over football decisions because he's got naked pictures of Jeffrey Lurie. I don't know what the deal is.
Yeah, as bad as Gettleman is, okay, and Gettleman's been pretty bad, but as bad as he is, I know that I know the Giant organization now. Judge has impact on what he wants. Okay, he doesn't necessarily say the player he wants, but he has impact. If he says he wants an offensive lineman, Gettleman's going to go out and try to get him an offensive lineman
because he's smart. Dave Gettleman's. I think Dave Gettleman's unfairly criticized. He built a very good football team in Carolina, and I think he's getting it right there in New York, despite a couple of free agent missteps.
Yeah, well, we're a little impatient. We're still mad. We're also seeing JPP win another Super Bowl. Seeing Odell Beckham, trading Odell Beckham when we don't have a
Odell Beckham stinks. He's a clown.
Yeah, but he's
probably going to get traded again this offseason.
He might get traded back to the Giants. I mean, who knows?
It wouldn't be a bad move because Daniel Jones needs a guy there. But getting back to the Eagles,
right.
So Howie Roseman's at the top. He's at the top of the pyramid. Him and Jeffrey Lurie, they're in cahoots. They're hand in hand. They're thick as thieves, Brad. So this is why the Eagles always get an unheralded, non-big name head coach because they have to agree to the dynamic that's set up here in Philadelphia. Except for Andy Reid. Andy Reid earned his full control over everything. But even he couldn't stand Howie Roseman. A man named Tom Heckert left. I believe he was the vice president of player personnel, and he got a big-time job as the general manager, whatever, of the Cleveland Browns. And so that happened. Jeffrey Lurie gave the reins to full GM control, player personnel control to Andy Reid. And it worked out fantastic, even though I don't like the dynamic that the head coach shouldn't have that much power. So this is why Doug Peterson gets hired when he probably shouldn't have gotten hired. This is why Andy Reid got hired when he probably shouldn't have gotten hired. And this is why Nick Sirianni gets hired probably when he shouldn't get hired. Like Nick Sirianni, he didn't have a better resume than Todd Bowles, Eric Bieniemy, any of these other guys that didn't get jobs. It's not. But Nick Sirianni, his job is to take the players that Howie thinks are good and make them into stars, even though the guys that Howie thinks are good have proven to be chumps time and time and time again. Except for one time when he had Joe Douglas holding his hand, a football guy from the Baltimore Ravens. They signed a bunch of gritty veteran free agents, something that Howie Roseman never would have done on his own, and they won the Super Bowl. And for whatever reason, Howie Roseman gets all the credit for that from Jeffrey Lurie. So the reason why the Eagles have trouble hiring a big-name head coach is because Nick Sirianni has to make chicken salad out of chicken shit with the players that Howie Roseman handpicks to be on this roster, who are, for the most part, chumps.
Hey, I mean, that's rough. That is rough.
So, and I like Sirianni because the one thing that's different this time around, a little bit different in terms of the Nick Sirianni hire, is the coaching staff outside of Jeff Stoutland, who's a great offensive line coach and was retained to the same position by Nick Sirianni. This assistant coaching staff has Nick Sirianni's fingerprints all over it, which wasn't the case with Doug. They kind of just hired Doug after the Chip Kelly fiasco and said, okay, like, here's your staff. and like we'll give you the players and you just try and do what you can with it. And they won the Super Bowl. Even though, and you know me, I'm not crying that Doug Peterson's not here anymore. I'm really not.
I know that. I know that.
I don't think he's that great of a coach. I really don't.
Well, the fact that you don't give the coach any input at all with the general.
I wouldn't say no input, but when the hammer gets driven down, the gavel gets hammered, like in court, Howie Roseman has the gavel. There can be debates.
That's understandable.
There can be debates to no end.
If the coach is telling you what he needs to be competitive, the general manager needs to go out and get what he wants to be competitive. And I can't imagine that Doug Peterson said, "Go get me go draft me a quarterback in the second round." I cannot believe that he would do that. So, I mean, I think you're probably right about that, and that really, in a nutshell, is the problem with the Eagles right now. Is that you've got. I mean, even the Giants allow Dave Gettleman listens to Joe Judge. Joe Judge doesn't tell him what players to draft, but if Joe Judge says to him, "Hey, you need to get me a good offensive lineman," he's going to try. He may make a mistake and not draft the right guy, which he's been doing quite a bit of, but at least that's the case. He can't,
But this is why Eagles Nation is so disgruntled right now.
Oh, I can.
Because you have a moron in Howie Roseman that's calling all the shots. Now, I don't think they're going to lose much losing Doug Peterson. I really don't. And Doug, great. He won the Super Bowl. He called Philly. He got him there despite the injury to Wentz, injury to Peters. Had Foles ready to go. Did a great job. I think a lot of things lined up great for Doug Peterson. Frank Reich, Joe Douglas.
Yeah, they had the best offensive line in the game, and they had a very good defensive line. I mean, that was the key to that season.
They got sacks and they forced turnovers.
Yeah, in the trenches, they were the best team in the NFL that year. In the trenches, that was the key. And when you're the best team in the NFL in the trenches, that enables your quarterback to be a quarterback who's a good quarterback to be a superstar level quarterback. I mean, it's as simple as that. I mean, that's basically it. So, you know what? If you improve the guys around you, then then perhaps your situation is going to be improved. But listen, what happened to Aaron Rodgers against Tampa Bay against that defense when he had no time to throw?
Crumbled twice.
What happened to Breeze? Breeze looked like he was an old, washed-up, horrible quarterback.
Breeze is a horrible, washed-up quarterback.
Okay, maybe
now.
But the point is, who could have really done better the way he was getting smacked around that game? And look at Brady, his last game against the Tennessee Titans when he ended his career in New England. Okay, he looked terrible that last game. Why did he look terrible? Because
they weren't good. The Patriots weren't good. They were there because of him.
Yeah, the Patriots' offensive line was just getting run over by the Titans. So the bottom line is, you have a quarterback that's shown with a good offensive line that he can be dominant. You might as well try it one more time. Let's roll him back out there and see what happens. I mean, I think part of the reason the Giants aren't trying to get the quarterback from Houston is because Deshaun Watson is because they just figure right now their offensive line is not good enough that it's going to make that big of a difference right now, and they don't have receivers. So let's improve the offensive line. Let's improve our receivers, okay? And after we've done that, let's see if Daniel Jones can be a franchise quarterback.
Yeah, but you're not trading Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, and pick 11 for Deshaun Watson?
They won't do that.
Who won't?
The Giants.
Why?
Because that is not the Giants' way. They're not going to do that.
What do you mean it's not the Giants' way?
Rob, they have never traded their first-round pick. In all the time. Never. I have never seen.
They never traded out of the first round?
No, they don't ever do that. They'll trade up, okay, but they very rarely trade down. They like to trade up. Okay, they always have tried to trade. They never do stuff like that.
Do you think Daniel Jones is a franchise quarterback? You think he's the answer for the New York Giants?
I don't know.
If Deshaun Watson was on your team,
well, he's a franchise quarterback. We know that. Okay.
Yeah.
But he's gonna be stuck in the same situation with the Giants, that he has no receivers and he'd be in a tough situation.
You can fix that because you guys have a lot of cap space there in New York.
Not really. Not. Well, they will after they make some adjustments. They'll have about $30 million after they start cutting guys and restructuring guys, which they're going to do. But I mean, I think right now, before you start giving up draft,
slam dunk, no brainer. Get Deshaun Watson in your building. I mean, all due respect to Saquon Barkley, who's a terrific back, he's coming off an ACL. I doubt he'll be ready for opening day.
I don't know about that. From what I'm hearing, he's
just ask Carson Wentz what happens when you rush back from an ACL.
No, I get that, and Saquon Barkley also the last that he has a habit of coming back too soon from injuries and then not.
What week did that happen again?
Week 2.
He'll probably be back for opening day. I thought it was later than that.
Yeah, it was week 2. I mean,
because Carson's happened in week 13, and they rushed him back, and it was a disaster.
Yeah, I think Barkley will be okay. I mean, I'd be surprised. I think Houston would want more, to be honest with you. I don't think they'd think that.
How much more can you want?
Well, based on
you have a disgruntled franchise quarterback that the world's going to find out doesn't want to be there, I think, sooner rather than later. You got to get something done. You got to get him out of there.
I get that, but when you take a look at other trades that have happened, and the last one with Goff, I mean, for Stafford, you take a look at how much LA had to give up for Stafford. I mean, Watson is better than Stafford at this point in his career. No, I mean, I think I'd rather have Watson at this stage of his career than Stafford right now. So I mean,
so what? You give him 2 first-round picks, Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they do that. That's just not the Giants. Just don't do. They are not the kind of team that does that.
I don't care what the Giants would or wouldn't do. I'm talking about Brad Ryer, GM of the New York Giants. Would you do that trade?
Yeah, I guess I would.
How do you think the fan base would react to a trade like that?
I think that they would probably like it because I do think that you'd want Watson, but you can't give up 2 number ones though. That's too much. If it's
Why?
Because that's too.
You're getting Deshaun Watson.
I get that, but you can't give up 2. You can't give up 2 number 1 picks. I mean, that's too much to do that.
Why?
Why?
Because you're a 25-year-old top 5 quarterback. What do you mean it's too much?
Oh no, I don't know. I don't know if I could do that.
But this
why
do fans try and portray intelligence by hoarding draft picks?
Well, first
I can give up a couple of draft picks to get a top 5 quarterback in the league and the only position that matters on the whole fucking field. Why would you not want to do that?
Because we're not good enough to do that right now.
You get Deshaun Watson, you're overwhelming favorites in the NFC East next year.
Yeah, but they're not.
You proved you can run the ball with Goldman and Freeman without Saquon Barkley last year. I mean, they almost won the East this year. You're adding an astronomical talent in Deshaun Watson over Daniel Jones. With all due respect to Daniel Jones, I don't know.
I agree. I agree with you on that. It would be tough. Look, if they do what they have to do to get him, I'm sure I'd be on board. I don't see the Giants doing that though.
And then I love how everyone forgets there's more than the first round in the NFL draft.
Oh, sure. Listen, if the Giants were able to sign Galladay or Robinson, okay, as a wide receiver to this team, and they're able to keep Leonard Williams, okay, and they're able to keep Dalvin Tomlinson, then yeah, okay, I might strongly consider that. We have to re-sign Goldman because Goldman's a free agent.
Yeah, but that's
But I like Gallman.
That's nothing. He's not going to get big
I
money.
like Gallman. I think Gallman was good enough to resign. You know, if he can, he's good enough to be a number one running back. He may not be the best in the league, but he'll get the job done. He'll get some yard. He'll gain you some yardage. I mean, they're not going to do it because they've already said they're not going to do it. So it's kind of a.
Oh, yeah. I mean, David Gettleman, he signed Odell Beckham Jr. to a long-term contract, told everyone he wasn't going to trade Odell Beckham Jr. That's not why they signed him to a long-term big money contract.
Yeah, I know.
Then I blinked my eyes and he was on Cleveland.
Yeah.
So they say all kinds of shit, and it doesn't mean anything.
That's true. I mean, listen, anything could happen. I would love to have Deshaun Watson on the Giants. I just don't know that right now if they're good enough to if it would really put him over the top right now. I don't think he's gonna. They may be a playoff team, but who would they beat in the playoffs right now? They might be.
You don't know what the landscape of the NFL is going to look like in 12 months from now.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
You have no idea. There's so much parity in the league. There hasn't been a repeat champion since the 03-04 New England Patriots. Let's get to some comments. Circle back to the poll. Because Carson Wentz saga in Philadelphia, it has so many layers to it because it's going to set up the whole NFL offseason.
Well,
it's the linchpin to get the ball rolling in a bunch of different directions for teams that either get Carson Wentz or miss out on Carson Wentz
or Watson. Yeah, I mean, between the two of them. Once those two get traded, if they get traded, then that's going to get.
I would be shocked. I would be shocked if Deshaun Watson is on the Houston Texans week 1 next season.
Yeah, I would be too. I think as far as Wentz to me is still 50-50. I could see Wentz staying with the Eagles. I could see them not trading him. I mean, again,
but I could see Howie holding teams up for a Stafford type trade and him not getting it and holding on to him, which would be a rare, intelligent thing for Howie Roseman to do.
Well, he should. He should. I mean, you know what? Howie should approach it that he's a disgruntled quarterback and not a bad quarterback. If you're going to trade him, then that's what you got. That's what you got to do. I mean, you know, you have to have respect for him and not say anything bad about him, because the moment you start criticizing him, you're lowering his trade value.
Which is also why it's a good thing that Carson Wentz isn't saying anything right now. Nothing good can come from him tweeting something out, talking to the media.
He's been pretty smart. He's like the anti-Tony D'Angelo.
Yeah. All right, Chrome checks in on the poll. He has to agree to the poll question. Most definitely Brady's best all-around team of his career. That's our poll question tonight. The 2020-2021 Tampa Bay Buccaneers are Tom Brady's best team. We should preface that with championship team. So 07 doesn't count. 2012 doesn't count. 2000, I guess if you want to put 2017 in that list, I don't think that team qualifies as one of Tom Brady's best.
No, that was a bad defensive team.
But Brad, I think that his two best teams in Foxborough didn't win the Super Bowl. They both lost to the Giants.
Yeah, I would agree with you, especially the team that had Randy Moss.
I mean, they had Randy Moss, Wes Welker.
I mean, was
it Dante Stallworth?
Yep,
I think was on that team.
I think
they just threw the ball. They threw the ball all over the place. I mean, their defense was a little long in the tooth.
Did they have Aaron Hernandez then, or did they have Ben? What's his name? That other Ben Watson.
No, I don't think Gronk and Hernandez were there yet.
Okay.
Gronk and Hernandez, they were on the 2012 team that lost.
Okay.
That's when they really took the team. That's when everyone figured out what 12 personnel was.
Right.
Yeah, one back, two tight ends, and you had Gronk and Hernandez, and Tom Brady just threaded the needle to them all day long, and no one could match up with it.
Right.
Nobody. So they made 12 personnel famous with that team.
Yeah, and I think they still had, and they had just got, and White and Hogan were just on their way back then. They had just gotten those guys.
But, I mean, they just pounded teams into submission with that 12 personnel.
Yeah. Oh, the 2012 team. Yeah, the 2017 team. The 2007 team was. I mean, had they beaten the Giants, they would have probably gone down as the greatest team in history.
Yeah, undefeated. The way they just
Yeah,
crushed everybody.
The only team they didn't crush was the Giants in the last game of the season.
They struggled with an A.J. Feely-led Eagles team in Foxborough.
Was that the game when Tom Brady came back late? They came back on that game.
And they had a close game against the Ravens that year, if I remember correctly.
Okay, they had a close game.
Yeah, the Eagles were going up to Foxborough. A.J. Feely, they were down to the third-string quarterback. It was A.J. Feely. The Eagles were 24-point underdogs. It was the biggest spread in NFL history that didn't involve an expansion team. And I think A.J. Feely was leading him down the field the 2-minute drill to go try and win the game, and he threw a pick. So that was their tests. They narrowly beat the Giants. I think they had a Monday night game against the Baltimore Ravens that they narrowly escaped, and the Eagles almost. That was it. So yeah, they would have been the by far the best team of all time if they were to win, but they didn't get it done. You got to get it done to be one of the best teams.
Yeah, well,
I think the Tampa team was the best team that Tom Brady's ever been a part of.
Yeah, I think
the offensive line, the skill position, the running backs, and the defense.
Yeah, I would agree. Although, again, the 2004 team certainly deserves an honorable mention as well.
I think that's his best. That's the silver medalist, if you will.
Yeah,
the team that beat the Philadelphia Eagles 24-21 in Jacksonville.
Yeah, I think so.
Because I mean, all due respect to the 2003 team, I thought they beat an much inferior opponent in the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, I think the Panthers played a great game that game. I mean, I think New England was.
Remember, that game was a dud until the second half, remember?
Yeah, Carolina came back because New England was kind of dominated the first half.
And there was scores all over the place. And then 0-1 with the they beat the greatest show on turf. The Rams were going for back-to-back. I mean, that just wasn't that good of a team.
The Rams' defense was not that great. It never really was. Their offense was just super back then. They were almost unstoppable. But what it proves once again is that if you have a great defense can stop a great offense. It's been proven over and over and over again. And let's be honest, though, that was kind of a home game for Tampa Bay, though.
Yeah, but there's no fans there. I mean,
I know, but they're still playing in their own stadium, though.
I guess a comfort level.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean,
whatever. I don't put much stock in that.
I mean, if the game was in Kansas City, even if there were no fans there,
that's different. Well, I mean, all due respect to Tampa Bay, I mean, I wouldn't put that in even the top 10 of NFL fan bases.
No, Kansas City's fan base is incredibly good. They've always supported that. That team has always been well supported.
Thomas Arnone. Some of those Patriots teams were loaded. That's tough. Yeah, but I think that there was more star power on Tom Brady's Tampa Bay team last night, this season, than there was on any of those teams. Those teams, they just had gritty football players. They didn't blow you away with talent. Scheme and grit and determination and Tom Brady's. I mean,
the Patriots never had, other than Randy Moss, the one year he was there, they never had a superstar like Mike Evans. Mike Evans is a star, is a flat out star. You know, I mean, he is very much. I would put him on the same level as Owens. He's the same kind of player. He's fast and he's physical. You know, and he has pretty good hands. You know, and he's a matchup nightmare because he's just so darn hard to cover because he's so big and strong. Same like Owens. I mean, I think it's a fair comparison.
Yeah, it's fair.
Yeah, I think Owens is a little better. I'm not gonna sit here and say he's better than Terrell Owens, but he's pretty much on that level. And New England never had a receiver like that. Now Wes Welker was really, really good.
Yeah, he's a different type of guy, though. Wes
Welker was an exceptional player. I mean, you know,
He's the slot guy, move the chains.
Right. I mean,
Take the short catch and, take it 20, 25 yards.
yeah, I mean, with Wes Welker, when they had Wes Welker and Gronk and Aaron Hernandez, I mean, that was pretty much almost an unstoppable offense. I mean, Brady, that one play when he threw the pass to the offensive lineman in the end zone, he literally almost threw it through his helmet.
Right.
I mean, I could have seen that ball if that ball was deflated a little bit, that ball could have gotten stuck in his helmet. It was thrown right in there so tight.
Greg Milakovic, he agrees to the poll question. Maybe the most talent he's had on a roster, person for person. I agree with that. I agree. I do think it was Tom Brady's best team.
I think that's
Bryce Blackwell, definitely Brady's best team. Mike Parker, Honey Badger pissed off the wrong guy. I mean, yeah, they had an exchange, and I guess it gave Tom Brady a little juice, but
Tom Brady doesn't need any juice.
I don't think that exchange had any impact on the outcome of the football game.
No.
Matt Spillane, Todd Bowles was the MVP of that game yesterday.
Okay.
I mean, I can't disagree with that. I wonder how that game would have gone if the Chiefs had a healthy offensive line, but we can't play that game. The Bucs were the better team; they're the champions. Tom Brady got his 7th ring. I've been pretty adamant and consistent that I think Todd Bowles is going to be a good head coach in this league. If given another chance, when he gets he's going to get another chance, especially after last night.
He will. The only thing Todd Bowles has to do is he has got to get himself a real good offensive coordinator. That's the key. If he does that, because that was the one thing he did not do with the Jets, and that cost him dearly because he is not an offensive mind. He's a great defensive mind, but he's not a real good offensive mind, and that's basically that was his undoing with the Jets. So I mean, I like Bowles. I think he will. I think he will get another job.
He was my second choice for the Philadelphia Eagles job as an Eagles fan. Yeah, he got an interview with the Eagles, but they didn't go with him. I wanted Saleh or Bowles. I think that they were the two best guys on the market.
Bowles probably wanted some kind of control. Because I think it'd be
but that's why I thought it would have been perfect for this Mickey Mouse setup they have here in Philadelphia. Because Todd Bowles, he's a failed head coach. And, he doesn't really have a leg to stand on in terms of asking for control.
Well, he does now.
Even now, I don't think he'd be taken seriously if he said, I want to be the head coach, but I want input on personnel. I don't know how that would be greeted.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't hire him, so it's kind of a moot point. But look, right now, if I'm Tampa Bay, I'm paying Todd Bowles like I'd be paying a head coach, just to keep him there. Kind of what the Giants did with their defensive coordinator.
And we got Patriots fan 12. Don't forget, prime Brady was better than 43-year-old Brady. 43-year-old Brady, still incredible. Yeah, I think that's well taken into account. My evaluation of the teams.
That's a legitimate point.
Look, I made the poll question this morning after I texted you and I said this is best team. I went to bed last night. This is his most talented team. Then I read the 2004 team that beat the Philadelphia Eagles, and it's much closer than I anticipated. But I'm still going to go with this Tampa Bay team just because of the receivers and the running backs and just the talent, position by position, player by player.
The way the defense shut down Patrick Mahomes, I mean, that was
no touchdowns. The Chiefs scored no touchdowns yesterday.
I mean, if you bet that in Vegas, what kind of odds would you have gotten? I mean, that. Yeah,
Antoine Winfield Jr. was a steal in the second round. Matt Spillane checking in on YouTube. He was a steal in the second round. See that? The Bucs go from 8-8 They bring in Tom Brady, they ditch Jameis Winston, and they have a good draft. They get a legitimate starter in Tristan Wirfs in the first round. I think at pick 15. And they get Antoine Winfield Jr., a legitimate starting safety in the second round. And look at that. So you got a franchise quarterback, hit on the first round, hit on the second round, world champions.
They also had some other real good players on their team too.
They did, but I mean,
they
were 8-8 a year ago.
Arians was not the coach 2 years ago, was he? They just brought Arians in this past season, right?
No. This is his third year, I think.
Third year, okay. Tell you what, I got to tell you, very happy for him. I've always been a fan of his. I've always thought that he was a real good coach, and it's really nice to see him get a ring. Really is. I mean, he's been around a long time, and I was really happy to see that he got another opportunity to coach after the Cardinals. I've always thought that he was a very good coach, and he deserved another opportunity, and he got one. And you know what? He made the most of it, and he was smart enough to step aside with Brady, and he was also smart enough to let Brady be an associate coach, because from what I read, Brady would get in at 5 a.m. and talk to Arians about the game plan each week. And you know what? The fact that the coach was willing to do that, and that speaks a lot for Brady, of course, but the fact that the coach was willing to do that to me is all you need to know about Arians, and you know how dedicated he was to trying to win this year. And good for Brady. I mean, you know, to do it and to win a Super Bowl in both leagues, by the way, is pretty damn hard too. I mean, think about that. Not just winning. I mean, it's hard enough to win two, but to win one with two different teams as a quarterback, that's kind of tough to do, because
especially in your first season as that team's quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, JPP won it with the Giants, but that's the same league, so I can't. That's the wrong. Two different teams. To do it with to win a Super Bowl with two different teams is pretty tough, though. You don't see that happen very often, especially in different conferences. That's hard to do, but especially as the quarterback, no less.
Crazy. It's unbelievable. 7 rings.
Yep. I mean, 7.
And you know, talent wise, if he wants to play next year, I mean,
he said yesterday he was.
But like, he's not going to be holding on.
No, I think
unless he falls off the Max Kellerman so-called cliff all of a sudden this offseason. Like, he's going to be a good player next year, especially as if Antonio Brown, Godwin, Evans, Fournette, Ronald Jones, Gronk, Cameron Brate.
Yeah, Antonio Brown was a lot better than I thought he would be. Honestly, he was a lot. I did not think Antonio Brown would be that big of a factor, but he was. He was, and Antonio Brown can still play. And you know what? He's finally gotten the message to behave himself. So whatever goofiness that he had going for him the last couple of years, he seemed to settle down and just do what he had to do and do all the right things in Tampa Bay.
Monarchs 94, an interesting point. What if Arians retires and Todd Bowles gets promoted? I guess that's possible.
I don't know about that. What about Brian Leftwich? He's the offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
I mean,
they'll have to pick a pretty good coordinators if Bruce Arians steps aside.
Either well, if Bowles got promoted, you definitely would want to keep. You'd want to keep him. That's for sure.
And we got some Carson Wentz stuff. I mean, Carson Wentz, it's a fascinating situation because Carson Wentz is the linchpin to the whole NFL offseason. Like, the Bears aren't going to draft a quarterback if they have Wentz. Like,
no, the Bears also are at 20, are drafting at 19 or 20. So
look at all the teams that need franchise quarterbacks. The Niners need a franchise quarterback. Jimmy G's not a franchise quarterback. Sorry,
no.
Not a franchise quarterback.
Totally agree.
Chicago needs a franchise quarterback. The Washington football team needs a franchise quarterback. It looks like the Dallas Cowboys are going to need a franchise quarterback. It doesn't look like Dak's going to be back there, which is surprising to me. I thought that would be a smart fit.
I'm reading that now all of a sudden Jerry Jones wants to pay him. So I don't know. I don't know.
Jerry Jones should pay him.
I don't know. I don't know what the holdup is. Supposedly he's also way ahead of schedule as far as his foot's concerned.
Well, he dislocated his ankle.
Yeah, but from what
I think that's less severe than an ACL, Achilles, something with your arm or shoulder.
From what I understand, he's way ahead of schedule. So and he should be back by maybe week 2 or week 3 of the season. So, they're not expecting him to be back before the start of the season, but they're thinking like week 2, week 3, maybe week 4 at the latest.
But I mean, New England needs a franchise quarterback. I don't know what's going on with the Jets with Sam Darnold.
I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. I don't know what they're going to do with that.
I hope the Eagles don't trade Carson Wentz. I really don't. I don't think the NFC is that great. I think New Orleans is about to take a huge step back with their cap. I mean, we complain in Philadelphia about the Eagles being $53 million over the salary cap, but the Saints they're like $75, $80 million over the salary cap. They got a lot of work to do to get in cap compliance. Drew Brees is going to be gone. The only quarterbacks you have in your roster after that are Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill, who neither of them are franchise quarterbacks. Jameis Winston, I think, is a free agent, so they would have to re-sign Jameis Winston. So Jameis Winston could go anywhere he wants. So this NFC is not that great.
As far as what I'm hearing about Jameis Winston, I'm hearing that that New Orleans wants him back and that they're going to make him the starting quarterback next year, and they're going to have Hill as the backup.
I don't think that's a bad move for them. Honestly,
that's what I've been reading anyway. So
yeah, I don't think that's a bad move.
Yeah,
right. You look at the NFC. 7 wins, won a division, the NFC East.
Yeah, but
guess what?
I think that division is going to be a little bit better this year.
But 8 wins got the Chicago Bears a wild card.
Yeah. Are they playing 17 games next year or is it 16?
Who knows? I don't know. I think the plan was to have 17.
Okay.
But they released the opponents, and I thought I only saw 16 opponents. Like, you know who you're going to play. You just don't know the order or the times or the primetime stuff and when your bye week is and stuff like that.
Correct.
So I don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. I mean, I think it's hilarious that all they do is preach player safety and they just want to add games to the schedule. Just willy-nilly. Yeah, well, add playoff games, add this. We really care about your safety, though.
Yeah,
go out there and get your head bashed in for an extra, 120.
Yeah,
180 minutes of football.
It's all about the money. Let's make something clear. It's all about the money. So, hey, by the way, did you hear there was a big trade in the NBA yesterday?
Yes, your Knicks on the move.
Yeah, the Knicks bring in Rose again for the second time. They give up on Dennis Smith and they give up a Charlotte Hornets second-round pick.
That's fine. I mean, Dennis Smith, I had promised for him coming out of NC State, but that was a disaster. I think he was the 4th pick for you guys.
Yeah.
Once upon a time.
No, well, the Knicks never picked him. They got him in the Porzingis trade.
That's right.
Yeah.
But that's it.
They got him in the Porzingis trade. And, I mean, listen, the Knicks could end up smelling like a rose if Dallas doesn't start picking it up. Because if Dallas ends up in the lottery and the Knicks make the playoffs, they have an unprotected pick from Dallas this year. I mean, that could look real good. That's kind of a no-lose situation, though. You get Rose for this year. I mean, Payton. The problem with Eldred Payton is that he doesn't play any defense, and I know a lot of people are upset because they think it's going to take playing time away from Quickly, but it's not going to take time from Quickly. But the 2 guys that are not going to play are going to be Austin Rivers and Payton. Quickly is going to come off the bench and he's still going to get his 18 minutes a night. Okay, and now you're going to have a professional point guard with leadership skills to get them to play with these kids. And I kind of like it because you know what? Derrick Rose is a winning kind of player. You put him in the right circumstance with the right team, and I think it'll work this time. You know, I mean, he's going to be the leader of these. With a leader, he's going to be out there. You got all these young kids playing. Robinson, Randall, who's only 25, by the way, Barrett, and that to me, it's a no lose situation. He's only signed for this year, so if you're not happy with him, you know he's gone after this year. It's no big deal. You can always cut the cord. If it works out and he's really good, then you know what? Then you can re-sign him for a couple more years. The Knicks put themselves in a situation where they can now give themselves a chance to at least get to the play-in game, which is what, the 10th seed?
Yeah, I think they're doing 7 through 10, like a play-in tournament.
Yeah, they're having a play-in tournament. I think the Knicks are good enough to get to the 10 to get to the 10 seed.
Well, I think it's a smart trade to add Derrick Rose to your team because, like, I think he's a different player. I think he understands that he's not the MVP of the league anymore.
No, and he's with.
I think he plays within his limits, whereas he was a diminished asset, and he kept trying to play like he was the MVP of the league, and he kept re-injuring himself.
Yeah, I think Thibodeau also knows him. He knows Thibodeau. He knows how Thibodeau wants to play. I think it's just it may take a couple of games for him to get the ball in the right spot for Randall and that sort of thing. And I think from what I'm hearing, Eldridge Payton sounds like a guy that a lot of teams are looking to get for for their backup point guard. So probably the Knicks will be able to recoup their second round pick that they gave up for
the second round pick. I mean, for every Draymond Green, there's 87 guys who just blow and can't hack it.
Trevor Ariza too. He was another second round pick, but I mean, there aren't too many of them out there. But I mean, second round picks to me are trade assets. So if you can get rid of Payton and you can actually get somebody that's half decent, and you can use them as for a trade, then fine.
And then you got the Sixers. They're doing their thing.
Sixers are playing good basketball.
Which, can we chill on? First off, two narratives are dead that are just nonsense by the fan base that just seem to try and find every which way to just crush Ben Simmons. Now, I don't get it. I don't understand how you can watch the game of basketball, be an intelligent basketball fan, understand X and O basketball, and not be a fan of Ben Simmons. I don't get it. I don't understand. And you know what? I ask people, what is Ben Simmons? What does he have to do? What does he have to do to get you off his back? What's he got to average? Oh, well, Rob, all he's got to do is he's just got to average 15 points a game. I'm like, what are you talking about? He already averages 12. You're bitching and moaning, running the guy out of town over 3 fucking points a game. What are you talking about? And the narrative that Joe and Ben can't play together, that's obliterated. That's dead. I mean, did you see them play a shorthanded Portland Trailblazers team last week? Ben Simmons took the night off. Joe played. Portland didn't have Dame Lillard or CJ McCollum. The Sixers lost by 35 points. They got smoked. So the fact that this starting lineup is whatever 13-0 together kind of proves that Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid can play together.
Oh, of course they can play together.
And honestly,
they've got enough talent to be a major factor in the East this year. I think the Lakers are down a notch.
They're the best team in the Sixers are the best team in the East.
Well, that remains to be seen. When the big 3 players on Brooklyn are all playing.
Fuck Brooklyn. Brooklyn's a bunch of clowns. Are you a Brooklyn guy? You're a Brooklyn guy?
Oh, I'm a Knicks fan. You know that.
I understand that, but you think this is going to work in Brooklyn?
I still think Brooklyn right now is the team to beat in the East in the playoffs.
They're not deep enough. They don't play defense.
Doesn't matter.
There's no stake.
It's a game. How much defense do they have?
It doesn't fly in the playoffs. It doesn't work. Why do you think Steve Nash? Why do you think Steve Nash's Phoenix Suns team never won a championship? They couldn't hack it in the playoffs. They can't play grinded out possession by possession basketball. Why do you think James Harden didn't win shit in Houston? Because they can't play grinded out possession by possession playoff basketball. They can't do it.
But he's also got Durant and he's got Kyrie Irving to help him. That's how
Kyrie Irving's a clown. He might get in a spaceship and go decide to live on the moon before playoff.
I always said that they're all playing. Okay, if they're all playing and they're all healthy, they're the team to beat. But
that team,
we'll see.
They have no depth and they play no defense. Sixers in 5.
I think the
Sixers in 5.
I think the
Heat in 5. Heat in 5. Celtics in 5.
I might say the Nets would sweep them. I could go that far if they did.
No.
They'd overwhelm them, Rob.
The Heat, the Celtics, and the Sixers would beat the Nets in 5. And I think the Sixers are the best team in the East. I think the Sixers. How can I not say the Sixers are the best team in the league? They beat the Lakers. Everybody played. They beat the Lakers.
You can say
that's the best team out west. They're the best team in the league.
But it's only one game, though.
And everyone wants to poke holes in them. Like they don't have 17 that. They need this. They don't have that.
They're 17-7. It's still early in the season. I mean, we can't.
I would be wary about making it. I would be wary about making changes to this basketball team if I'm Daryl Morey in the front office. I really would. I think that they're dynamic and the way they're constructed really works.
Why would you make a trade if you don't have to? If you think you have the best team, okay, I don't think anybody else is going to be making major moves, okay, underneath them. So if they,
I don't know who's going to get traded. I mean, Harden got traded. I don't know who's going to get traded. Big name wise.
Oh, I don't think any. I mean, maybe Oladipo.
He could get traded again. I'm not in on him.
I mean, he's going to be a free agent, so he'll probably be.
Who's going to get him? Who do you think is going to get him?
I don't know. That's the question. I mean,
he seems to be fitting well with the Rockets. See, the Rockets had the best defense in the league since the James Harden trade. Wonder why that.
It's not just him. There's a lot of guys that they got rid of. They had a fire sale. So I mean,
James Harden's a mutt, man. He's just not a winner. He's not a winner. He's great. If you have him on your fantasy basketball team, great. You'll probably win your league because he fills it up. He can really score. He shoots threes. But when it's time to go win championship, when it's time to put that heavy lifting in, James Harden comes up small. Harden comes up small.
Kyrie Irving didn't. He sure as hell didn't when he was with Cleveland.
He did not. No.
He could not have won that championship without him.
And Durant's a freak. Durant's mentally weak.
Well, we'll see how weak
Durant's mentally weak.
We'll see how he is. I don't know.
He couldn't beat the Warriors, so he gets bitched out by the Warriors for the third or fourth time, and then he goes and joins the Warriors like a punk. He ain't a winner. He ain't got it. He ain't got it. The Nets don't got it, Brad.
He couldn't beat him. So I mean, listen.
Joined him.
Yeah, basically.
That's soft. You don't think that's soft? You're trying to build a legacy for yourself? That's soft.
LeBron does the same thing. I mean,
no. LeBron has never not been.
LeBron goes to different.
No.
Have salary kit.
Totally not the same thing. Sure. LeBron James has never not been the best player on his basketball team.
Well,
Kevin Durant was not the best player on the Warriors. Steph Curry was.
His last season was. By the way, did you happen to notice, speaking of Curry, do you see the 57 points he put up?
57. He can still fill it up.
Yeah, oh man.
But there's Steph Curry. Everyone dick riding Steph Curry for years and years.
See, I've actually turned on a few basketball games over the last week. So no, but all this aside, Kyle Lowry may be going to the Miami Heat. I've heard that one.
What? That doesn't make any sense. Toronto's just starting to gel. They're just starting to play good. The East is really good. The East is really good.
He's 34 years old though.
But he's still playing at a high level.
I know. I'm just saying what I've read.
I understand that, but some of these rumors, you got to sift out the bullshit, Brad.
What are they going to? The problem to me is, and I know Toronto's playing a lot better. What would the Heat give them? Because the Heat are obvious. I mean, especially when they're in the same division. I mean, does that make sense? Maybe the Heat will wait till next season to do that.
See, the Heat. Miami's always a premier free agent destination because of the weather, because of the tax breaks, which you always like to bring up.
Tax breaks are huge.
And, just the overall atmosphere of South Beach. Pat Riley's a draw. They have a great coach. So I wouldn't go giving up a bunch on the trade market of your young talent, your draft picks, because you can just sign someone. Well, and they have enough money under the cap to sign a max player.
He's going to be a free agent next season, rather after the season. I know that.
But why would you trade him? But why would you trade assets for him and pay him?
Do they think that he's going to be? Do they think that he's the difference?
Anytime a big time guy's a free agent, Miami's always at the top of the list as a potential landing spot. Always.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when is the deadline?
Good question.
That's the whole thing. Where's
probably February?
Does Toronto think that they can win a championship with this year? That's number one. Number two, if they can get a nice package for him, and they think he's not going to, and they're not planning to re-sign him, maybe they do trade him. I'm just throwing this at you because
I think they could. I think they could do better. From a competitive standpoint, to not trade him to the Miami Heat.
Yeah, well, I mean, and listen, he's not the key player on that team anymore. Van Vliet the other night had 54 points. From what I read.
Pascal Siakam's really good. Chris Boucher's really good. OG Agbiani's really good. Norman Powell's really good.
I mean,
but yeah, I get it. Father Time's undefeated. Kyle Lowry's going to be 34 years old. He's been in the league a long time. He was a good player. I don't.
The question is, do the Toronto Raptors think that they can win a championship this year? That's good. That's going to be the question at the trade deadline.
If I were the Toronto Raptors, I don't think the Toronto Raptors are going to win a championship this year. They don't have a top. They don't have a top 5 player, top 7 player.
If they don't think that they can win a championship, okay, and they're not planning to re-sign Lowry, okay. Wouldn't it make sense for them to trade him and get if they can get something reasonably good for him? I'm not talking about a first round pick, because a first round pick with Miami.
That's something reasonably good.
Well,
they're below the 8 seed right now. I mean, they're tied with the Knicks right now for the 8 seed.
Yeah, but listen, now that they got Jimmy Butler back,
no. I'm talking about Toronto.
Oh, Toronto, okay.
Miami's 9-14. I fully expect Miami to.
Miami
pile up some wins here.
Miami's only had Jimmy Butler for 5 games this year, something like that.
He's kind of just been chilling.
Yeah,
resting up. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, he hasn't really been. He hasn't.
They've had other guys out. Heroes missed a lot of time, and I think they had a COVID.
Probably. I mean,
COVID issues.
There's a lot of there's been a lot of weird stuff going on with the Heat, but I keep reading that they really, really want Lowry, so we'll keep an eye on that. I mean, it may not make sense right now, but you know what? At the trade deadline, if they again, for Toronto's already won a championship. It's not like they haven't won a championship and they're just giving up on the team. They've already won their championship, and I know this is a long shot, but keep in mind, Kawhi is going to be a free agent after this year, and can be a free agent, I should say. And so can Paul George. Maybe they save the money and they go after one of those guys. Just a thought here. I mean,
I would rather do that than trade because that's only going to cost you money. And from what I understand about the financials, the Miami Heat do have enough money to.
No, I'm talking
get a max guy in the mix.
I'm talking about Toronto. Maybe Kawhi might want to go back to Toronto. We did win a championship there.
Yeah. Yeah, but why would he do like?
Well,
Why would he leave in the first place? I don't understand.
If Kawhi is still a top 5, top 10 player, okay. Van Vliet
I agree.
has certainly become a top 20 player. He's really good. So
top 20, that might be a little aggressive, but yeah, I agree. He's very good.
He's really good now. So I mean, they've got enough talent on their team to be very, very dangerous if they went and got him back. And you never know, because again, Kyrie can opt out, as can Paul George. So you got to wonder. And DeMar DeRozan is going to be a free agent too. Maybe he goes, maybe he gets traded.
That's an interesting name. DeMar DeRozan is very good. He's good at defense. He can bang around a little bit. He could play the 4 if you want to go small.
Not quite as old as he's not as old as Lowry.
But like the Spurs are kind of good. They're 13-10. They're 5th in the West.
I understand that. If they can listen, the Spurs, I think the Spurs are still in rebuild stage though. I think they'll do whatever they can to try to improve their team. If they can get some assets, I'm just looking at it as far as Miami goes. That could be a possible destiny. He could be a possibility too. They seem to want a guard, so I'm just looking at 2 guys who are going to be free agents, who certainly are.
I think that's a more likely trade.
Yeah, I haven't read
DeRozan to the Heat.
I haven't read that one. I read Lowry. I didn't read.
We make up. Well, Brad, you brought up Luck going to be the quarterback of the Colts, and then all of a sudden Jim Irsay is talking to Andrew Luck about coming back.
Yeah, and right now they're thinking that he doesn't want to come back. But I mean, who knows? He could get the itch.
But getting back to the quarterback, I mean, doesn't Carson Wentz to the Colts just make too much sense not to happen if Carson Wentz were to get traded?
Yes, but Carson Wentz to the Dolphins too.
The Dolphins?
Yeah, why not?
I mean, the Bears?
No, the Dolphins. Nobody's talked about that. But that would be a good trade for the Eagles.
And what would you presume the package would look like?
Well, you get the 3rd pick. If you're getting the 3rd pick, that kind of makes things a little bit more interesting, doesn't it?
Well, I would want Tua.
Okay, so suppose they traded you Tua and a 1st-round pick for Wentz. Now you're talking about.
I don't think Carson Wentz at his lowest point. This is another reason why I don't want to trade Carson Wentz. You don't sell an asset at its lowest point. Doesn't make sense. It's bad business. Carson Wentz.
Listen, I'm just saying, if they're going to trade him, if they don't talk to Miami, they would be doing themselves a disservice, because Miami has trade assets that should interest Philadelphia. Really should. I mean,
like I said, I would need Tua to come back. And I don't expect to get Tua and the 3rd pick. I think, what do they have, 21?
They have 3 and 21.
21 and Tua for Wentz?
Yeah. Well, no. I'm saying 3 and 20. I'm saying because they're not gonna want to trade a lot of players, but you trade the 3, and you trade the 3 and Tua for Wentz. That may not be a bad move.
I would do that trade. I would do that trade. I'm not in love with Tua.
Miami might do that too.
And I really would like to hold on to this 38th pick as an Eagles fan. Because, I mean, that's a premium selection in the 2nd round. You can get a really good player there.
Oh, hell yeah.
And, I don't know. The
Rob, anything in the top 50. Anybody getting in the top 50, you're getting.
The Carson Wentz and pick 38 for 2 first-round picks, Nick Foles and Roquan Smith, that doesn't do anything for me.
That's a ripoff.
I don't like that trade at all.
No. Well, but
I really don't. Like it leaves you franchise quarterbackless. It leaves you without a franchise quarterback.
Wouldn't
Meaning
you?
you have to start all over at the quarterback position. I'm just not willing to do that. Not when 7 wins won my division last year and 8 wins got a wild card. Can't do that.
But when you do a deal with the Dolphins, they have much more to give you.
And it's out of conference, which I like.
Yeah, that's the other.
That's another reason I like the Colts. It's out of conference.
But you're not getting a high pick.
I don't know what the Colts would offer. And if there's not a first-round pick in the mix, in addition to a quarterback that I feel comfortable somewhat starting, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it at all. And no, Nick Foles does not.
I think Miami makes sense for you. I think Miami is going to end up being the team that gets Deshaun Watson. I mean, to me that seems like a perfect like the perfect storm for those two.
And if you're gonna trade with the Chicago Bears, why not give me Mitchell Trubisky and not Nick Foles?
Okay.
Mitchell Trubisky's the best quarterback on the Bears roster.
If you put Mitch Trubisky
would start over Jalen Hurts.
Yes, he would.
Unquestionably. In my opinion. Nick Foles would not.
He was not, you know what? He was not bad in the second half of the season, although he was dreadful in the playoffs.
He's shown flashes in his career. He's been very hot and cold.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't think it's fair to kill him over the game against the Saints.
He led the league in QBR in 2018.
Yeah, no, listen, if he has some help, it would be.
So I would trade Wentz in 38 for 2 1s, Roquan Smith and Mitchell Trubisky. That would satisfy me from a Carson Wentz to Chicago standpoint.
Yeah, but then you have to give up. But are you going to have to give up a second though?
Yeah, I'll give him 38.
Yeah, because I was going to say they're going to have to give him.
No, because then I'll have 1 and 20. I'll have 6 and 23. I'll have 2 1s in 2023. I'll have Roquan Smith, who would be a potential rental, but I would extend him because he's a good player. And I have.
But the other thing, Rob, is you can.
I wouldn't say a franchise quarterback in Mitchell Trubisky,
but before you extend them, you also can you can get a free look at him because you're going to have him for a year. And if you don't want to extend him, you can let him go.
You can franchise him. You can do a number of things with him.
Right. That's what I'm saying. You get a year to.
You trade him at the draft. You turn around and trade him at the draft.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's kind of what the Giants did last year with Leonard Williams. I mean, they got him from the Jets, and I was one who criticized that trade big time. But you know what?
But he had a great season.
Yeah, you know what? The Giants took him even though he was going to be franchised. They took him because they wanted to take a look at him because Gettleman liked him, and guess what? Gettleman was right.
And then
I know
Carson Wentz to the Niners. I don't see how that makes sense at all.
And if I'm the Niners, I wouldn't take a chance with him because I don't like their offense to begin with. I don't think they have enough weapons.
Whoa! I would love to take a chance if I'm the Niners on Carson Wentz because Jimmy Garoppolo stinks. He's not.
I agree. No, you're right about.
What are the Niners going to give me as the Philadelphia Eagles to make me want to give you a franchise quarterback? Because that's what Carson Wentz is, a franchise quarterback, folks. I've been saying it for 2 hours here.
But what are you getting? What are you getting from them?
I mean, what do they have? 13? I think they have the 13th pick.
Yeah, but other than that, they don't. What do they have that you really want? I mean, do they have offensive linemen that can help you?
I mean, a smart guy like John Lynch isn't going to be giving out offensive linemen.
That's what you really need. I mean, if you're gonna,
the Niners are just going to have to blow you away with draft capital because they're not giving you a quarterback back.
No.
And I read all these reports. Sports Illustrated had the report that they're willing to move forward. Jalen Hurts is your franchise quarterback. Not me.
That's a mistake.
No thanks.
That's a
no
mistake.
Thanks. He shouldn't even be on the team to begin with. And everyone, he's a good leader. What a good leader.
As long as he is, I mean, as long as he is, that's then it is. It kind of is what it is. Tell you what, this Ranger Islander game, Rob. Nothing in the third.
Nothing in the third. 10 minutes to go. It's a big game.
Even the shots on goal are 25-24. I mean, it's been an even-Steven game. I'll tell you what, these two teams are playing.
What's his name? Shastenkirk? Is he in that tonight?
For
the Rangers.
Oh, Shesterkin. Yeah.
Shesterkin. And then I know Varlamov's in the net for the Islanders.
Made a great save about 5 minutes ago against Panarin. Panarin went in by himself.
But I mean, this East Division, I mean, we talked about at the top, it's a gauntlet. It's going to be very, very hard to put a winning streak together in this division. That's why if your team loses, like the Flyers, if they blow a couple third period leads, if they lose a couple games in a row, you got to relax. It's got to be in the top four. And then there's a Islanders goal.
The Islanders.
Hopefully it's Anders Lee. He's on my fantasy team.
Yeah, I think it was Cizikas. It's the fourth line again. That fourth line of the Islanders always seems to kill the Rangers. It's amazing.
I think they kill everybody.
Yeah, their fourth line just
like it's traffic in front, a little bit of a scrum, and that's just a typical Islanders goal, I feel like.
Yep, and
shot from the point, juicy rebound, and then 53 there just knocks it in.
Yeah, that was Cizikas.
So now the Rangers got to respond with 8 minutes to go. What have your impressions been of Alex Lafreniere? Obviously, the Rangers got very fortunate to win the draft lottery.
He's been struggling a little bit. He's only got one goal so far this year, although it was a game winner in overtime. But, I mean, he's going through what a lot of 18 and 19-year-old players go through their first year in the league. I mean,
limited training camp and no preseason. I mean, that's got to be a killer.
That doesn't help either. And, he's going through some growing pains without question. But, I think he's going to be an excellent player. I think he's going to go on a run, and then he'll get himself going. I think it's going to be a lot like – I mean, look at Capo Caco last year, had a rough rookie year, but he seems to be coming along this year. Not a lot of points yet, but you can see by his game all the skills he's got. I mean, some guys it takes a little time. You don't always go onto the ice and score on your first shift like Mario Lemieux did. It's not that easy. Now, we'll see what the Rangers are able to do. I mean, the Rangers last year would not have been able to come back from this. They'd be demoralized and end up dropping the game. We'll see if they can actually come back and score. But Varlamov shut him out last time too. So that's something to think about.
He's a good goalie.
Oh, he's very good. When he's on, I mean, he has a lot of off games. That's the thing with him when he's on top of his game.
But these goalies, they're weird. They're like kickers. They go bad and they get their head on straight, then they're good again, and then.
Yep. I mean, Shesterkin has been on a real roll.
He was terrible. He was terrible.
He was terrible for the first 2 games of the season. He couldn't stop the football. But again, the goaltenders, and a lot of them, there's no training camp. A lot of them were struggling, so it wasn't just like he was the only one. But Georgiev hasn't gotten going either, so that's another issue. But again, the Flyers yesterday, Scott Lawton with the hat trick. Oh, they just scored again.
That was a good win. Is another goal?
Yep.
I didn't see that. I missed that. I didn't see that go in.
Yeah, fourth line again, Matt Martin, who has no talent. I have as much talent as that guy. But he goes to the net, and you know what? That's really, if you're a big, strong guy like him, you go to the net. That's how goals get scored. But Matt fucking Martin.
Well, I mean, that defense there by the Rangers, I mean, they didn't stop the puck.
No, and once again,
they just let him carry it through the neutral zone. They banged it off the boards.
Yeah, well, once again,
there's a guy streaking into the end, and then they just wink one pass, and they get a clean shot. I mean,
yeah, no, that you can't blame. I can't blame Shesterkin for that goal. That you can't let a guy get a shot from there.
That was a defensive lapse. They weren't paying attention, and they got bit by the fourth line. Same line that just scored, so there's really no excuse for it at all.
Well, actually, no, it wasn't the same line because Barzal made the pass, so I guess Martin plays with Barzal. I thought Martin was
Rangers almost got one right back. They can score the Rangers. They really can.
Oh, they can, but they can. But this year again, they've been having trouble scoring this year because Zibanejad hasn't done anything. I think Zibanejad has 1 goal and 2 assists this year, which is unbelievable.
You just need to buy your time. You got to buy your time until these guys can get into hockey shape.
Yeah, well, you know what though, that was the 4th line. Although Barzell was playing with Clutterbuck and Matt Morton. I'll tell you what, that Barzell play, they put him on 2 lines. That's interesting.
He's a stud. I would have him on all the lines if I were.
So he plays on
coach.
the first line. He double shifts. So he plays on the
guy's
first
awesome. He's 23. He's just
no. Listen, I like that idea. But so the 4th line bites the Rangers twice.
All right, we got to get out of here. Flight Zone's coming up. New show here on A2D Radio. We get out of here for them. Thank you to everyone who commented, liked, shared our show. Thank you to our great sponsors, Philly Drinkers, Body Check Wellness, Dr. Paul Vidal at Specialized Physical Therapy. He's Brad Ryer. Shout out to Frank Vesby for producing the show. He's Brad Ryer. I'm Rob Brinkman. Until next Monday. Note the new time change, around 7:15 every Monday now. Peace out, everybody.